to talk about PTS. In the last segment here, I want to go over this in detail. I want to break things down for you a little bit, help you understand what it is. Maybe if I share a little bit about my personal experience with it, nothing, groundbreaking that, oh my God, Popeye is releasing details of his life. Nothing like that. I mean, I'm going to tell you that it's not dramatic. This isn't for hits or anything. This is trying to help people understand what PTS is. There's so many people that think, well, soldiers just get it, and it's only from war. It's shell shock. No, that's because it's misunderstood, because no one really knows, because they haven't done the research, and the people that have researched it, they just, it's always throw a pill. The doctors don't know anything about it, because to them, everything is throw a pill at it. Well, take this pill and it'll fix it, or take this pill and it'll fix it. Or they don't focus on what it really is. Okay? So I'm going to go into detail a little bit. First of all, let's stop calling it PTSD. It is not a disorder. A disorder would imply that something is wrong with you, and that is why you're having this reaction to whatever. Okay? There is nothing wrong with you if you suffer from PTS. Doesn't matter if you're a veteran. Doesn't matter if you were in a car accident, you were raped. You're going to suffer from PTS. So there's nothing wrong with going through it. I know when someone suffers a traumatic experience and they go through PTS, there's a bit of shame in it. And that is because of societal standards and things. People feel a level of shame, like that these feelings of anxiety or panic or fear, or however you want to classify it, however it makes you feel, racing thoughts, paranoia, you react, hypervigilance. It's hard to, when you're in that state, it's hard to explain to people what it's like to be in that state. But when you're in that state, you take things the wrong way. You're not paying attention. You're on guard, but it really messes with you. And there's nothing wrong with feeling like that. There's nothing wrong with feeling that way. There's nothing wrong with you having those reactions. A lot of people go, well, what's wrong with me? I must be broken. Something's wrong with me. See, that's the problem, is our society and throughout, humanity, whatnot, how it's been controlled or whatever, how society has grown throughout the thousands of years. That's the way people assume that if there's something wrong, if everything is not status quo, it's got to be wrong. Something is wrong with you. Something is broken. You need to be fixed. Oh my God, he's broken. He's got post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a disorder. No, it's not a disorder. Post-traumatic stress is a completely normal response to a completely abnormal situation that causes you such an amount of trauma. Okay? That's what it is. Now, you could have PTS from anything. Again, I won't say the D because it's not a disorder. It's a completely natural reaction to a completely abnormal situation. So if you're in war is insane. War is the opposite of sanity. War is the opposite of normal. War is bizarro world on crack, okay? You come back from watching your friend get his face blown off, or surviving an IED explosion. That's a traumatic event. But what about the people that weren't maybe leaving the base? They were in a forward operating base, but they didn't leave the wire. They weren't infantry. They weren't grunts. They weren't ground pounders. Perhaps they were engineers on the base. Perhaps they worked on the base, but they still took incoming mortar fire every day, and they had mortars landing, and people were getting killed on the base from mortar fire. Well, what about that? That's traumatic. Surviving a mortar attack, having your friends killed by a mortar attack, even being worried about a mortar, having that stress of the possibility that any given moment a mortar could land where you are and kill you. Being in a situation for an extended period of time where you know your life is in danger. And it's not, well, I'm in this for an hour or 2 hours, 3 hours, and then it stops. No, you're in it for months at a time, and your body is just on that. That's traumatic. What about a person driving a car and they have an accident? They have a rollover accident. Maybe they have an accident involving a motorcycle or something. You hit someone on a motorcycle and you kill that person. That's traumatic. You don't get killed yourself. Maybe you weren't even injured, but you were involved in an accident which took another person's life. That's traumatic. Don't you think that would cause PTS? Maybe a woman is raped. As horrific as the crime is, and I think that all rapists should have their balls cut off and then be shot square in the forehead, no questions asked. Rapists and pedophiles are even lower to me than murderers. I mean, murder is a horrific crime, but to me, rape is even lower than that, and pedophilia is even lower than that. And, well, both rapists and pedophiles should be dealt with accordingly. But if a woman is raped, she can suffer from PTS. Without a doubt, she'll be suffering from it. That's a traumatic experience for her. Horrific thing. She'll suffer from PTS. How about women in the military that they're not even in a combat situation, but they're raped? They get PTS from that. How about if someone you love very close to you? Maybe you're close to your nana. Maybe you're close to your mom. And they suddenly die. Or even if it's a protracted death and they've been sick for a few months and you've been taking care of them, that stress builds up. It's traumatic to you. You're going to experience PTS without a shadow of a doubt at least once in your life. All of you listening. At one point or another in your life, you will experience PTS. The symptoms of it. You know why? Because everybody is susceptible to it. Again, it's a perfectly normal reaction to an abnormal situation. So to all the vets out there that commit suicide and stuff, and they think a lot of what they're going through is it's abnormal to you or you're broken. You're not broken, guys. You're not. In fact, you're actually more sane than the people that you know that aren't affected by what you experienced. The people that are okay with it and it doesn't matter to them and they can sleep well at night and it's all cool and it literally doesn't bother them, which there are people like that. Those are the people that actually should be the ones that should be going and seeking help, or at least a counselor or speaking to somebody. What you're going through is completely normal. Why do you think there's so many people having PTS that get out of the military? Because it's a completely normal reaction to what you're going through. Trust me, I know. PTS has got a stigma around it where someone hears PTS and they instantly think that this person is going to come and shoot a place up or they're going to go nuts. And there are times people that maybe a veteran who's used to carrying a gun or being in a war zone might have a gun in their glove box or something, and they get cut off, road rage accident, and the person with them, the vet goes to reach for the gun and the person has to calm them down. I'm sure that's happened. I know it's happened. But that's the circumstances of it. It's each case is its own case. Everything is the circumstances are for that case only. It's not an umbrella type situation where you can just say, well, that means anybody with PTS is going to get a gun and start being reactive like that and be irrational and everything else. To help you understand why people react like that and why people flip out and have, maybe they'll be calm one minute and they flip out the next. Post-traumatic stress, the amount of trauma that you end up experiencing, it's such trauma that it just causes you to disconnect. Like when I was a firefighter, we used to talk about how, we would make crude jokes sometimes or whatnot, not about the victims, but like just about things in general, or try not to get emotional, when you're at an accident scene or something, you have to do that to be able to do your work and see what we see, especially when there's kids involved and stuff. And, you see this stuff, you experience this stuff day in, day out. It eats at you. And why do you think cops end up eating bullets? There's such a high rate of suicide amongst police officers. I'm not kidding. It's post-traumatic stress. You think doing that job is easy? I mean, I'm not saying that, okay, look, you know how I am about the costume and everything, but the real, like if you're a good cop or whatnot, and maybe you're in, you see a lot of bad stuff. Maybe you're in an area where it is a bad area, and you guys actually are doing, not all of the cops in the area are doing whatever, but maybe you're a good cop. Maybe you're one of those few, and you did 30 years, and the older generation cops, and maybe you were a detective in homicide for 15 years. I mean, can you imagine these homicide detectives? You don't think these guys have PTSD? Or excuse me, see, I even slipped, PTS. You don't think they have PTS? You don't think they have it at all? I know. I would assume that they do. I mean, you see murders and crime scenes like that. That stuff is traumatic to the human brain. You don't even realize it. Look, case in point, I'll give you my personal experience. Okay, I suffered from PTS after 9/11, and I actually joined the military, went through boot camp with it, and I didn't know what it was. And then I served my entire time like dealing with it, not understanding what it was until actually after years after I had gotten out. I did not understand what was going on. And then, of course, being in the military and stuff too, then anything else that you might have experienced in there, if you were, if you ever experienced something that was traumatic to you as an individual, whatever it may be, that can add to it. Now, I had it because the way it affected me was survivor's guilt after 9/11, because I was a first responder that day. I helped out with the Red Cross. And I kept saying, especially like to my mother, she was one of my close confidants at the time, and I would sit and talk to her, and I would tell her, I wish I could have done more. And I would literally sometimes, I would be sitting out back, like I'd go out in my backyard, I'd smoke a cigarette, I'd be sitting on the porch out back, the patio, and I'd be smoking a cigarette, and I would start to cry. And I didn't understand why. I just felt so helpless, and I felt like I had failed. And that if I had somehow done something or known something, I could have saved more people. I mean, I was trained in high-angle rescue. I have all sorts of certificates when I was a firefighter. High-angle rescue, rappelling, search and rescue, firefighter 1, firefighter 2, an arson investigation class I took at the State College for a year and a half. Another arson investigation class I took at the County Fire Academy. Officers courses, all sorts of stuff. I mean, I was doing urban search and rescue, all sorts of things I was trained and I was a specialist in. When I was younger, that was my job. I loved being a firefighter, and I actually didn't get paid for it. We were volunteers, but you do all this training. Volunteer firefighters, by the way, there's more of them than paid firefighters in this country. And just so people understand, volunteers do the same job that paid guys do. They just don't get a check for it. Okay, that's the only difference. They don't get to sit in the firehouse and get a paycheck and collect a paycheck while they do it. They have their everyday lives and then disconnect from that to go fight fires and stuff. That's what volunteers do. Okay, a lot of people don't understand what volunteer firefighters do, but you want to talk about a noble calling. Anyway, so after 9/11, I was a firefighter for 6.5 years. I had 6.5 years of hardcore, and anybody that knows me and knew me when I was a firefighter, especially, when I'm into something, like I do 110%. And I was at the fire academy and at the state fire college all the time. They had they were different at different colleges. They had different courses that were put on state level that were certification courses for firefighters. And I would go to these weekends. I would go take these college. Everybody else was going out and partying when I was 19 and 20 years old, right? Or partying, chilling out. You know where I was? Popeye was driving down to the universities, and I was taking classes to better myself as a firefighter, because I had wanted to be a paid firefighter. That was my ultimate goal, right? So here I am, and that takes forever and all this other that's more of a bureaucratic mess than anything else, trust me. But 9/11 happened. So I'm a volunteer firefighter. 9/11 happens. We were sitting down at Giant Stadium waiting for ambulances to come in because there was ambulances from all over the tri-state area, Pennsylvania, all the way up as far as Vermont and Maine coming in. It was really crazy. So there was a bunch of firefighters and trucks and ambulances and stuff from Jersey that were down at Giant Stadium, because that's where the staging area was. And long story short, the Giant Stadium's not even there anymore, but that's where the state police staging area was. By the way, I've talked about this before. That's where I was standing in the radio tent, and when we heard them arrest the van load of Israelis, over on the George Washington Bridge with explosives in the van. That there's actually, if you go on YouTube, I have it up on some of my YouTube channels, and it's on federaljack.com. Look up George Washington Bridge, van full of Middle Eastern men or van full of Israelis, bombs on 9/11, and it should pop up in the video. It should pop up. But I was in the tent when that radio call came in. I've talked about this before. But anyway, being there, we were there for about 3 or 4 hours, and you could see it was, to be there like that close, it was different. Like you could see the cloud coming up the plume. You could smell it. We were across the river in Jersey, and you could smell it. You could just smell the death. And we were sitting there. Like one of the things that really affected me is after about 3.5, 4 hours, whatever it was, we were sitting there. They were supposed to be bringing in bus loads of victims. They had like charter buses and city buses. They were supposedly loading up with victims and then ferrying them out of the city because they were closing all of Manhattan Island down, everything. So they were ferrying everybody, a lot of people across to Jersey, and they were supposed to bring all the victims right across and then bring them over to Giant Stadium. And that's where we were going to offload them from the buses, put them in the ambulances, and all of us locals, because we knew where all the hospitals were. We'd already organized all this. We were ready, just waiting for the people. We were going to take all the out of area ambulances to the local hospitals. We were going to start ferrying the victims back and forth. That was our job, was to get the injured parties, whether they were civilians, firefighters, whoever, cops. We were to save. Our goal was to save their lives. We were to transport them and keep them alive until we got them to the hospital. But nobody came. No buses came. And I kept saying, I remember I kept saying, man, I don't know if they're going to find anybody, because it was just so surreal. And I said, that thing, the whole building just vaporized. Like, those people can't, they're not, if the building vaporized, how can those people be there? How can those people still be alive? Anyway, long story short, that day, because I was not able, it was just, and it wasn't just me, it was everybody, but as somebody that's trained to save lives, as somebody who spent so many hours training to save others people, literally my whole training, when I was younger, when I was a firefighter, and still now, I do good things, and I try to save people. If I see an accident or something like that, I help out as best I can. But like when I was a firefighter, that was my thing. I was going to save people. Like I wasn't doing it because I wanted to be cool or for a paycheck. I did it because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to actually save people. I wanted to. I didn't want to just talk and be like, yeah, we could be that barrier between life and death. No, I was that barrier between life and death. I've saved people's lives. I have. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just trying to get you to understand my perspective. So that day, it was hard for me to accept that I could not have done anything at all. And I had survivor's guilt for a very long time. And then I went through boot camp, which is a traumatic experience itself, right? And then I was in the military. And when I got out of the military, I experienced survivor's guilt again, which a lot of guys that get out, especially if there's an active time period going on and your friends are still in it, they understand what I'm talking about. But it was even worse because I still had the survivor's guilt from 9/11. And now it hit me even 10 times as hard. And it was rough. And then I did have a traumatic experience on top of it during the situation. My mother died at 55 of lung cancer. And I'll share this with you. I didn't find out she was sick until 2 weeks before she died. My family had kept it hidden from me. And because for whatever different reasons, it was idiocy, but they didn't tell me until 2 weeks before she died. And I was deployed, and I had to come home and take emergency leave to come see her and basically be with her for the last couple days of her life before she died. So that was very traumatic. The last time I saw her, she was walking around. She had long black hair. She was healthy as all could be. And the next thing, a little over a year later, she's dying, and I did not know. So that was traumatic. And then at the same time, within a few months, I was getting medically retired. And I already had one operation, and I knew I had to have others. So all this stuff was weighing down on me, and the survivor's guilt, and it compounded, and it beat me down, and it brought me into some dark places. So I understand where someone with PTSD goes when they have these dark episodes and stuff. Believe me, I've been there, and it was a long road to get out of it. Unfortunately, I had no one in my life that understood what PTS was. I had no one in my life that even understood what anxiety or anything was at the time, or any of those feelings. My family didn't talk about that stuff when I was a kid. And when I was in the military, they didn't talk about that stuff, and they didn't give you psychotropic drugs. Now they dish them out like they're Peds. But they didn't talk about that stuff. When I was in, if you said you had PTS, or you even said, oh, I have a little anxiety once in a while, or this or that, they would, which is normal, but they would flip out on you, and you would be discharged and everything else. So I didn't have that support system, okay? But now there's more information out there. There's the internet. There's no excuse that you can't be that support system for somebody. Now, I got through it my own way, and it took me years to do it. But there are people that off themselves. They eat a bullet, or they OD on something because they can't handle it. And it's not just war veterans. Again, there's people that rape victims, car accidents, somebody in their life dies. I mean, I had a few year long series of traumatic things, starting with 9/11 that dealt with me. But that's my case. That's not everybody's case. Everybody's a different case, and it took me a while to get through my experiences. From just being down, the staging areas and being a first responder, and then going and helping out with the first the Red Cross on that day, and in the days to follow, and loading up trucks and driving supplies down there and seeing all that stuff. It weighed on me. But everybody's situation is different. Doesn't matter what the traumatic scenario is. The point is, this stuff weighed on me so hard that it put me into those dark places. So I understand where these people come from. I understand why people explode when they're pissed off. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we can all experience this. To put it in a nutshell, PTS is literally when your body, your soul, your essence, your being, you know what I'm talking about, you, not your physical body, but you, okay, you are disconnected from your physical body and your central nervous system, which, helps actually, if you understand the way it works, it's almost like the central nervous system meshes you and your physical body. And your those three key pieces are separated. And it's that traumatic event, whatever it may be, is what, let's say, broke it into three pieces, okay? And in order to get back to yourself, you have to bring those three pieces back together, and it's not something that's easily done. Medication, pumping meds on it. Well, my kid's got PTS, so we told him to go to the VA and just listen to what the VA doctors say. Look, none of these psychiatrists, whether it's the VA or private, really know anything much about PTS. There are some people that maybe have done research, but most of them don't. The only thing they know is to throw a pill at it, okay? You need to talk to them. If you have PTS, don't lock yourself up in a room. Don't think everybody around you sucks. Look, I know if you're a vet and you come back and you think, my family doesn't understand me. Believe me, I get it. My family didn't get me. They didn't get me before I went in. They didn't get me when I came home. And then my mother was dead, and I had to deal with all that. And then she was kind of like my intermediary with them. And once she was gone, I had no one to kind of explain me to the rest of my family. I was the black sheep. So I know how you feel. Trust me, I know how you feel. But killing yourself is not the answer, okay? You can get through this. All of you, anybody that has PTS, you can get through this. I promise you. I did. And look where I am now. Now I'm doing something. You know what helped me get through it? I couldn't even look at images of 9/11. And then when I started to investigate it for myself back in like 2006, doing what I do helped me get through it in the beginning stages of when I first started doing this. And it helped me work through it. I still have survivor's guilt to this very day. I talk to Joe about it sometimes. He knows. So does Ken Webb. He knows. I've told him. They both know that I go through it. I still have survivor's guilt to this day. It's something I'll probably never get rid of, but I've managed it. I don't let it eat at me like it used to. I still wish I could have saved more people and done more stuff. Not that I saved hundreds of anybody. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I wish I could have done more and saved people. That'll never stop. It just drives me to continue to do what I'm doing. But everybody out there can experience PTS, okay? Throwing pills at it is not the answer to stop it. Look into yoga. There's yoga classes for veterans, connected warriors. I've gone and taken some of the free classes. They're great. They're very good with veterans with PTS. It helps you get reconnected back with your body. It helps connect your essence, your central nervous system, and your physical self, in your brain. Connect everything back together, and you can start to deal with it. By the way, if you have PTS, guys, you big burly Marines out there all afraid, it's okay to cry. Give your wife a hug. It's okay to cry. Hug your friend. It's okay to cry. Don't be afraid by the stigma that the mainstream and that the society itself puts on PTS, because it's just a stigma. There are people out there that understand you, who love you, and will listen. Trust me, I've been there. Ladies and gentlemen, I hoped my little rant here tonight on PTS has helped you understand, maybe just listening a little bit better. I hope it's helped you understand a little better what PTS is and helped you maybe connect. If you have it, do yoga, exercise. There's lots of other stuff that'll help you through it. You don't need big pharma meds all the time and, to lock yourself away from society. Ladies and gentlemen, do your research. Again, the solutions to our problems are most definitely an inside job. I love you all, and I am out.